Welcome to another edition of Entrepreneurs and Fuego, where we're documenting the journey of entrepreneurs one digital footprint at a time. That's a pretty cool slogan.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little nervous with the Fuego and me being Jewish. So we're going to get through this together. And I've made my whole career in the radio industry with the principle that I have a face for radio. So being on camera is going to be something new for me.
What's tougher, being interviewed or interviewing?
Probably being interviewed is a little bit tougher.
Right.
Because, as the interviewer, you're in control of the conversation. You know what's coming and so forth.
And Mike Weinstein, my main man, and Francisco Aguirre right here at the office spot, we like to be in control. So somebody asks us questions, we're like, wait a minute, what's happening here? Mike, good to meet you, man. Good to meet you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you for coming here, Entrepreneurs and Fuego. And what we're trying to do with the show is to try to find out exactly how you got to where you are. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now, what your projects are, and all that good stuff.
Well, my projects are twofold. I am been a real estate agent here in the Valley. I have a team with West USA called the YourRealEstateWorld.com team. But my success in real estate really stemmed from getting involved in radio. And so I'm also the host of It's Business Time on 92.3 KTAR. So my journey to where I am today, it's twofold. I'm a talk show host again on KTAR, as well as a real estate agent here in the Valley. And radio has really been the vehicle and the medium that I've used to launch my career to a level where I consider it to be successful.
There were about, 80,000 realtors at the peak of the industry and so forth. And of course, that's dwindled probably to less than half. And so did you find then that through radio, you had to kind of give yourself that comparative advantage or to get that hook that makes you different from other realtors?
Well, I think with radio, it really just came down to doing something that nobody else was really doing.
Right.
And we have a couple successful agents that really have taken radio by storm and have been successful. But the average agent, the average entrepreneur doesn't think that they can be on radio, doesn't understand the steps necessary to get on radio. What does it take? How simple is it really? And then use radio as that medium to launch into success. I actually got started in radio in the mid-2000s on a station in Los Angeles. I was out here as a real estate agent. I'm in a hot tub with my father-in-law. That's probably
that's another story. Exactly.
A whole different story. And he said, well, why don't you just advertise on the radio station that I advertise on? And we're talking about numbers, and I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And that's really been the impetus of me as a realtor or more of an entrepreneur of like, okay, nothing's a bad idea until I explore it, until I at least try it out. And so really quickly, I found myself buying 30 minutes of airtime on a station in LA, completely catered to California investors who are wanting to come out here to Arizona and buy real estate. So yes, I'm partially responsible for the collapse of the real estate market in 2001 to 2011, so I personally apologize. And that's just how it got started. So I was just marketing myself as a real estate agent on a station on LA. The market crashed. My partner and I, we sat around and we love politics. So we said, we should just have our own talk show, because the real estate was struggling. So we bought 60 minutes of airtime on a local station here, just talk politics, and 6 years later I'm on 92.3 KTAR with my own show and talking about business and entrepreneurship.
So why politics originally? Was everything else taken that you had to talk about politics?
Oh no, we were just passionate about it. We just loved it, and you got to keep in mind that was the leading up to the election between President Obama and John McCain, and I love talk radio. I was raised on talk radio, and it's just what we did. It's what we talked about, and we just bought 60 minutes of airtime, and away we went. And I remember the first morning, the microphone turned on, the red light went on. My co-host, my partner, started talking. I thought, oh my goodness, we actually got a radio show. And then throughout the years, my passion is entrepreneurship. My passion is I work with a lot of real estate agents here in the Valley, mentoring, coaching, a lot of small business owners. And I love the entrepreneurship spirit. I love dealing, talking with, coaching entrepreneurs. And so I went to KTAR and said, hey, how about we just do a business show? It's called It's Business Time. And
Awesome.
That's what we have.
Awesome. And then you talk about, in your business show, you talk about entrepreneurship, about businesses, and this mostly successes of business people. And I'm sure you've heard just thousands and thousands of stories. Is there a story that kind of comes to mind that you go, that was a cool interview, that was a cool story that I remember?
Yeah, with the office pile.
Just back circling. That's the answer. That's the answer I was looking for, man.
You know, it is. I'll be honest with you. The most interesting interview that I've had, and the one that really stuck with me, was with our very own Pat McMahon, who's got the McMahon Group. He has been part of the longest running television show here in the state of Arizona.
Yes.
And he's an icon. And listening to his stories of being with business owners and entrepreneurs and the things that he's learned throughout the years was phenomenal. And then probably my other favorite was with the GM president of the Diamondbacks, Derek Hall.
Okay.
Of a dude who gets it, who really truly cares about the people that work for him at the stadium, work for him at the D-backs, and understands how to build a successful culture. That was probably one of my favorite interviews.
Is it? So it is. I mean, you dreamt about being on radio, and you went ahead and did it.
Well, that's what's funny. No, I didn't, and that's why
okay.
people at the radio station, all the young interns, all the people working themselves up, always ask us, how do we get on the radio? How do we do it? I just say we just kind of side-doored the business. We did what nobody else does, is just go down to the radio station and say, hey, I want a show. How about I buy the time? You know, weekends. No one's going to hand you a afternoon drive midweek show. We just went down with a checkbook, and it was very minimal at the time. It was at a different station here in the Valley, and so we bought, I think it was 7 to 8 in the morning on Saturday mornings, and we learned how to do radio. And that's the other thing with radio. Radio just gives this perception that you're more of a celebrity than you really are. We're just on the radio. We just,
Is it
just talk.
Would it be fair then for somebody that is starting a business to perhaps go into podcasting, perhaps? Just starting that way to get their message out and then grow from there? Would you recommend? I mean, not everybody's going to have right now a budget, if you will, to go right straight to radio.
I would say it just depends on the product and the service and what you do. I mean, every business is obviously different.
Right.
For me, talking about real estate on the radio is huge, because we have great materials, great things that we offer listeners that listeners can respond to. And with being in real estate, we are focused on an area. We're focused on buying and selling homes for people here. So radio makes the most sense. If I'm offering a service and a product on more of a national scale or on a global scale, podcasting is the way to go. And when I got into radio 6-7 years ago, I never heard of the term podcast.
Podcasting, right?
So
that's very
so yeah, podcasting is huge, a huge way of doing it. And again, it's not so much always that comes down to the success of the show, the success of the podcast, as much as you're at least doing it. And you now have the credentials that, hey, I have a podcast, I have a destination, a digital destination that I can send people to. And with that, you build credibility, you build legitimacy. And that's what I tell people: if you're going to do your own radio show, it doesn't necessarily matter the station, it doesn't matter the time the show's on, the fact that you're doing it.
We're a little bit biased for video casts, naturally.
And videocasts are huge as well.
It's the way to go, man.
And if done properly.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. People do a video and they just throw it up on YouTube. Well, you do a video, you need to do it everywhere. It needs to be on your LinkedIn, every social media platform, any and every which way that you disseminate all the information about your company. And video is huge. As a matter of fact, Facebook just announced that they are now, and depending on when you see this video right now, but companies that are utilizing advertising via video, Facebook is putting more of an emphasis on them right now, because video is so powerful.
It is very powerful.
And Google rewards video when it comes down to search engine results.
Right. So you're doing this podcast, and you find that there is a great connection between your radio show and your business of real estate, and it's going to. Have you during this process, surely there were some obstacles, some type of setbacks perhaps that you experienced? Or was it always just very good?
Oh no, there's always setbacks. One.
And how do you deal with them?
You just keep going. I mean, you have to. I think for us, we've tried so many different mediums. When it either comes down to radio, or it comes down to real estate. A lot of things have failed. We have faced a lot of obstacles. We just try to make sure that we don't invest too much money in a project before we cut the ripcord on it, because you don't want to get too knee deep in debt with something. But when you have something that you think is truly viable, when you do get the feedback that this is something worthwhile, this is definitely a road to continue down, you just keep going and you get better. We literally landed on KTAR because we weren't afraid to pick up the phone and take people out to lunch.
So it was, and that is amazing. So when you are an entrepreneur, you take those calculated risks. I mean, you had to go down to the station and you figure, what's the worst that can happen to me, right? They can say no.
Exactly.
Right?
And I say that all the time, especially with our real estate agents. The worst that anyone can tell you is no. And really for me, I just get my affirmation each week when I show up to the station and my key card works. Just as long as they don't tell me I suck and the key card works, that I know I'm doing it right. So
you got a lot of agents working for you, and what message do you tell the younger agents, somebody that is trying to make it on their own? And this is really what the show is all about, because somebody's going to be watching this is going to say, you know what, I think I can do that, but I just don't know where to start or how to get to do it. That's a great question. And I would just literally, it comes down to the mind shift. We always talk about mind shift. You are an entrepreneur. You have to think like an entrepreneur. And most real estate agents, car salesmen, whatever the insurance salesmen, whatever the case is, especially if you're in sales and your income derives from commissions and profit on the sale of a product. Or you eat what you kill type of mentality.
You have to think like an entrepreneur, and most don't. You know, I always talk about in real estate, the reason that, we probably still have 70,000 plus licensed real estate agents, but we always talk about how come most agents can't make more than $30,000 a year, because real estate is an industry designed strictly for entrepreneurs. But the average real estate agent isn't an entrepreneur, doesn't think like an entrepreneur. So what I tell my agents, before you start reading about scripts and being the #1 salespeople and processes and forms and stuff like that, become a student of entrepreneurship. Those are the articles, those are the websites, those are the books that you should be reading, because an entrepreneur takes care of himself, can fend for themselves, not only knows how to fish for themselves, but knows where to find the lake to fish.
Where do you get your passion?
I truly, that's a great question. Most of my passion comes from, I've figured out what I love to do, and I'm doing what I love to do. And it's been hard work, but radio just wasn't handed to me. Having a large real estate group wasn't handed to me. Doing what I'm doing inside of real estate wasn't handed to me. But I've identified what I truly love to do and have found the mediums that will allow me to do it. And the one question I always ask the entrepreneurs and the business owners on my radio show is, let's just say you're teaching the capstone class at the W.P. Carey School of Business, sure, and you've got 60 seconds. You got 30 young entrepreneurs ready to go hit the streets. They're going to start their own business. What piece of advice do you give them? And I would say 7 out of every 10 say, find what you love to do, find what you're passionate about, and do it. And so I do what I love to do.
But you found radio though in a very side door back way. Yeah. I mean, you didn't know that was going to be your calling, because I mean you're truly successful on the radio, and you didn't know that was going to be your calling until you actually did it, and then it becomes something that it's your passion.
Yeah, and then you wake up one day and say, boy, what if they took the radio away from me? And I thought, I wouldn't like that.
Mommy!
Yeah, and so then I found different ways. I mean, because when we started in radio, we had a politics type show. Then we just had a regular midweek talk show where we just talked about if Britney Spears was in the news, we were talking about Britney Spears. And I love to be on the radio. And then I thought, okay, I love to be on radio, but what do I truly love talking about the most? And that's entrepreneurship. So then I went to the station with the idea of, let's have a business show.
who's going to be the next president? You're like, I mean, I have to ask you politics. You're talking about politics, just bringing up who's going to be the next president?
Oh my goodness, the next president. I think it's going to come down to, truly will come down to Trump vs. Hillary.
I agree.
And it just is going to come down to how bad does Donald Trump really want to be president.
I think he wants to be
I'm not sure,
very badly.
because here's what most people don't forget is Donald Trump has been, every time, the last 3 elections he's been running for president or threatening us. This is the first time he's gotten serious.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I think it's going to come down to the two of them.
We're gonna watch this kind of at the end of next year. We're gonna go, all right, I think, well, we'll see what happens. I think Mike was right. I think you're calling it for Trump, maybe?
If he really wants it, I think Trump can beat Hillary. And I think he's the only one that can beat Hillary.
You should run for president, Mike. This is a little gift for you, brother.
All righty, I appreciate it.
This is from the office pile to you, and for being a guest of Entrepreneurs in Fuego, man. And truly, the passion that you have, what you found on your way to your success was not a planned.
Not at all.
Venture. I mean, there wasn't a master plan there, but you found it in that journey.
Yeah, and and when you do, back to the failure, when you face failure, I give myself, I will allow myself, if I lose a major real estate deal, if I get a setback on the radio, I always allow myself 24 hours to sulk. Personal pity. 24 hours is done, okay, what am I going to do next? And what's the next path? What's the next step to help me to success? But I do allow myself 24 hours to cry and lament.
It is very interesting you say that. We've had a good number of interviews here in the show, and that's usually what it boils down to. You sulk for a little bit, you allow yourself to kind of go, pick yourself up, and
keep going.
This is for you.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mike. Appreciate it. And we're out.
Welcome to the remix. Prestige.